trip to Egypt is an adventure no matter where you land. Even the most typical attractions have a mystique that make people curious. But it's the unknown options that really seals the appeal, whether it's surfing in the Mediterranean or rocketing above the Red Sea. So the big question is what to choose. You may be perfectly content spending your time at those iconic attractions that you grew up reading about, and if so, you don't need my help. Just read up on the hot spots and take your pick. If you're into discovering the unknown, then you might be an archaeologist and I can't help you there either. But if you like a little bit of both, then there's definitely a direction I can point you in. I'm ShaneO, and this is the Sahara, like you've never seen it before. This is the frontier of Egypt that allows an everyday traveler like me to feel like an ancient explorer. And sometimes it delivers more than just the feeling, especially with so much uncharted territory.
Who knew there were beaches in Sahara?
To consider the vastness, this desert takes up a fourth of the entire continent of Africa, which is roughly the size of the US. And while there's typically a single image and a single activity that most picture in their minds of this supposed wasteland, let me show you the diversity and adventure that just a small fraction can bring. We'll begin with the familiar, which starts about 350 miles west of Cairo, across mostly flat and featureless desert until we reach the Oasis of Siwa, the doorway to the Great Sea of Sand. So throw it in four-wheel drive, drop the tire pressure, and we're in. This is the Sahara that people see in the movies, and in their dreams. As you watch the other trucks branch away, choosing their own line and sharing with you the freedom of no road signs, no speed limits, no passing lanes, and no worries, it feels like you're riding on the very clouds the sun is setting in. If you think this is no man's land, well, it is. Humans weren't meant to be in the desert. But people have been trekking through the Sahara for thousands of years, and they weren't traveling like this. So just because we don't belong somewhere doesn't always mean we shouldn't go. But if you do, safety should be your top priority, then comfort. And the Colonel, along with his recruits, provide both. This is the Yoda of the desert. He learned to navigate it back when he was chasing Libyan traffickers in the 70s using the sun, moon, stars, and wind as his GPS. I consider that a few ranks higher than tour guide, but he's damn good at that too.
I can go in the desert for 2,000 kilometers and I can take with me about 25 persons and stay in the desert for 15 days without any refuel. I feel that I'm a part of it. I melon with the nature. We was created at the beginning to live with the nature.
Seeing the Sahara in the morning for the first time, the best way I can put it, no one else exists. Take a look around. There's no one left but you. It's humbling. But at the same time, it's cathartic. Whatever worries or stress you had coming in got left back somewhere way before Siwa. And before I get too far off that subject, the Oasis of Siwa is one of the most beautifully bizarre travel destinations in Egypt. A place that stands alone, geographically and culturally. Historically, this desert civilization goes all the way back to Paleolithic times. It was well known to travelers some 3,000 years ago because of its oracle, also known as the Temple of Amun, which was said to predict the future.
And it was right here that Alexander the Great was ordained a god.
Siwa is the epitome of a land that time forgot, but we're slowly starting to remember. And in the most unusual ways.
Cleo's bath. Cleopatra bathed here. So will I.
It's not bad for a Siwan tourist trap, but there's something the tourists don't know yet.
This is one of over 180 wells in this area, and of those, maybe 30 have been swam in. Say around 5 have been explored by scuba. This one being the most interesting of the 5, never been filmed before. Let's see what's down there.
As we descend into the well of Abu Shroof, I first notice all the fish, which isn't new for being a diver, but then I realize where we are. do these fish get here? Come to find out, these fish are actually endemic to this well and have never been seen anywhere else. Which definitely doesn't answer my question. They remind me of evolved aquarium fish, which is appropriate since this feels just like an aquarium. But these aren't aquarium decorations. A lot of this dates back to the Roman era over 2,000 years ago. Like I said, I'm no archaeologist, but this arch looks pretty Roman to me. And we were the first to ever film it. Of course, at this point, you can't just come here, suit up, and jump in. Doing things like this in Egypt are delicate and they need to be done through the right channels. But as the Sunken Antiquities Department begin the process of surveying all of them, I have a feeling Siwa will be opening a number of new touristic dive sites very soon. For now, I'll be dreaming about it under a blanket of more stars than I've probably ever seen in my life. Too bad they don't translate so well on video. I'll make up for it in the morning. Before leaving this area, we have some unfinished business. Our adventure guide, Taymor from Sahara Adventure Company, has all the right toys to ride the waves of the Great Sand Sea. It's up to you to figure out how to do it.
It's mostly trial and error. I've already learned, don't jump into the run. Ease into it.
Sandboarding in the Sahara is a rite of passage. This is an ever-shifting dry ocean with 70-foot waves of sand crashing on coral reef. For a surfer, it's a massive swell that never goes flat. For a snowboarder, it's a mountain of snow that never melts. But don't be fooled. It's not all fun and games.
It's a little harder on the ace than you expect.
Most of the other deserts on the planet, you look at the sand granules, they're still got like sharp edges because they're just young deserts. The Sahara is the oldest desert on the planet, so it's like riding ball bearings.
And if you lack the necessary balance, there are other options for Sahara adrenaline.
It's like the Pacific Ocean, you know what I mean? Like these guys are chartering boats to go surf all over the Pacific. You charter a couple of land cruisers and get some camping gear and just drive around the Great Sea of Sand, looking at all these beautiful dunes, choose whichever dune you want to ride. Sick.
And if you want to get all that sand off you, just right down the road, it's a little natural jacuzzi named Beer Number 1.
It's with a sulfur taste, but it's less filling.
It's hot.
Oh yeah, that's a jacuzzi.
I never realized there were hot springs in the Sahara, nor did I ever imagine it'd ever be cool enough to get in one. But the winter months are surprisingly mild.
There's no bugs, there's no rain, there's no hassle. I mean, just sand. Sand's clean, it's silica, it's glass.
Another misconception is the topography, or lack thereof. Well, if you're crazy enough, let me show you what you can see in one day driving southeast from the Great Sand Sea through the Sahara.
Shiny. This is the Black Desert. And when you talk about hot Sahara Desert, this is where you probably don't want to be in the middle of the summer. And you got the White Desert, for obvious reasons. This is all calcium deposits.
So, as long as you're up for a little adventure, the Sahara is the real deal. For me, it represents a retreat from the world to something bigger. A place that brings back the spirit of adventure that we had as kids and the true heart of exploration that fueled travelers for so many years before us.
I found myself in the desert. I feel moral. My eyes I can see better, my ears I can hear better, my mind is open. It's a very, very, very good feeling.
When you you set foot in the Sahara, the fleeting idea that in today's world you can still be the first to do something and to see things that no one else has ever seen before, all of a sudden becomes completely possible again. And what a way to do it. I'm ShaneO. See you next time.
Welcome to everybody to the Sahara.